Many of the seemingly harmless involvements that tend to get associated with Halloween can be entries, the technical term used by some for entries of the occult. One of the things that was very dominant among the Druids was human sacrifice. It was considered the only day on which the help of the devil could be invoked for such purposes.
All right, this is fascinating. We're going to be reacting to Chuck Missler explain the invitation to the occult and is there any tie to Halloween? So we're going to get into this. Shout out to K-House TV. And if you guys had the opportunity to send me an email to get a free subscription to K-House TV, I really appreciate it. I was able to submit about 11 people, so I just submitted the first 11. So if you did not get an invitation, I am sorry about that, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to do another one. So thank you so much for reaching out. I really appreciate it. Let's get into it.
Go back to Roman and other pagan traditions. I think most of us that have done any research at all, of course, know that Christmas is in fact deeply immersed in all kinds of Babylonian and other pagan traditions.
Really?
The Christmas tree itself originated from ancient tree cults. The term Druid, may surprise you, originally referred to a priest of the oak cult. And
but it's fascinating,
the custom of kissing someone under the mistletoe can be
But the fascinating thing about this, so many people claim that really Christmas itself is not a cult.
Back to Druid beliefs that sexual potency and other things reverence for that plant. Easter, I think most of us probably realize that Ishtar was the one of the goddesses of the Babylonian religion, and the golden egg of Astarte was a fertility symbol, originated in fertility cults. And if you understand the symbol of the rabbit as a symbol of fertility, you can understand how both eggs and rabbits became symbolic of these ancient pagan fertility cults, and that's how you get Easter bunnies. I mean, you ever wonder where you get bunnies that lay eggs? You know, that's sort of a strange idea that we sort of take for granted in the various practices and games that are played around that time of year. And so it goes on and on like this. The practice of sending Valentine's Day cards goes back characteristically to a licentious Roman feast called Lupercalia. Birthday cakes may have derived from offering candles and cakes to Artemis, an ancient Greek goddess of the moon and the hunt.
So everything that we do is connected to the cult. Oh man, guys, sorry to tell you that. Can't do anything.
The custom of giving out cigars at babies' birth may come from ancient Mayan fathers who would blow tobacco smoke toward the sun god as an offering of thanks for the newborn child.
I've never given
Our
a cigar
childhood tooth
so.
fairy, strangely enough, goes back to attempts to hide physical items from practitioners of voodoo who would use such items for their curse rituals and so forth. The idea of June brides is related to Juno, the Roman goddess of marriage. Most aspects of the American wedding ceremony can be traced to ancient pagan customs, including the bride's white dress and veil, the exchanging of wedding rings, and the father giving the bride away. So there's many of these ideas go back to pagan issues.
Wow.
And with that sort of candid survey of the culture in which we live, once a year, we as Bible-believing Christians get confronted with a particular pagan celebration that should be giving us some difficulties. And that is, once a year, we face the dilemma, the problem, the burden of dealing with a holiday called Halloween.
This is going to be interesting to hear his take. I've never heard it because I do know. So all right, if you say all of this is tied to the cult, then we shouldn't be doing any of these practices. If that's your reasoning, if everything is just tied to the cult and it's demonic or whatever. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. Just because maybe some other people practice similar traditions doesn't mean that it's just demonic by itself. You know? So I'm interested to see what he has to say.
And it's obviously very easy to shrug this off as just another one of these quaint vestiges of days gone by. But it's interesting. I thought we would tonight explore a little bit on some of the background that will relate to decisions that you're going to have to make this year again. The celebration of the pagan festival of Halloween is now a $2.4 billion market, merchandiser's dream. Over 50% of Americans will decorate for Halloween as compared to 80% for Christmas.
Wow.
It is now the third most popular party activity, following only the Super Bowl and New Year's Eve.
Following only the Super Bowl and New Year's Eve? What? That's crazy.
Is big business. And I wish that was where it ended. It's always a difficult time, especially for Christians, and especially those with children. How do you deal with this? I'm also going to suggest that it's also a very dangerous time, because many of the seemingly harmless involvements that tend to get associated with Halloween can be entries, the technical term used by some, for entries of the occult.
Whoa.
And some of these things can prove very tragic for the unwary. It's interesting that you could easily make a list of superstitions and strange ideas that were extant during the days of ancient Israel. What do you suppose would be the penalty for someone who ran around the camp of Israel arguing that the world is flat? Probably nothing. You and I could probably conjure up a list of superstitions or weird ideas that were
Yeah, by the way, who in the world, someone commented in one of my last Chuck Missler videos that I reacted to, saying that he doesn't trust Chuck Missler because he thinks the world is flat. And I've never heard him say that ever in my entire life. So I don't know where you're getting that. And right there, he was saying like, that's a superstition, that is a conspiracy, that the world's flat. But anyway, I feel like, to be honest, stay with me here, because I feel like I might disagree with him a little bit on this Halloween idea.
Symptom of ignorance or being uninformed that were apparently would be dismissed as harmless. But if you were involved in something that smacked of witchcraft or astrology or necromancy, trying to communicate with the dead, what was the result in the state in the camp of Israel?
Death.
Death. Death. It was a capital crime. It's interesting that God didn't set those rather severe punishments for ignorance, but rather for tampering, to protect them from tampering with something that was dangerous. And so I thought it would be fruitful for us to spend a little bit of time taking a look at the roots, the background of this holiday.
I would like to hear his roots, because I've heard also that Halloween started from this word called Hallows Eve, and it was from the Catholics remembering the saints who have died. So I'm curious if he thinks or has that connection.
That is relatively recent as an American holiday. And actually, the background of Halloween starts in ancient Britain and Ireland, the Celtic festival of Samhain. It was observed on October 31st, which was the end of summer. In Cornwall, it was called Allantide, of apple time. In Ireland, it was known as Gimbred. November 1st was the new year in both Celtic and Anglo-Saxon calendars, and the date was connected with the return of the herds from pasture, and the laws and land tenures were renewed at that time. It was one of the most important times of the year in the Celtic culture. And yet we'll also discover it was also one of the most sinister times of the year. The Celts were the first Aryan people who came from Asia to settle in Europe, settling in northern France and the British Isles. The Celtic people engaged in occultic arts. They worshipped nature, ascribing to it supernatural or animistic qualities, very much like your federal government is enforcing in the schools today. You might reflect on that as we go. The ancient Druids were a priestly class of the Celtic religion. Many of their beliefs and practices were similar to those of Hinduism. In fact, there's some very fascinating echoes throughout the Celtic religion of what we know today in the Hindu beliefs.
Really?
They taught reincarnation and the transmigration of the soul, that people can be reborn as animals. That was a very common thought. It's a common thought in Hinduism. It's also was a common theme in the Celtic religion. Now, according to Julius Caesar and other sources, the Celts believed that they descended from the god Dis, which is the Roman name for the god of the dead.
Oh.
It's interesting that the Druids and the Celts venerated memory very highly. And as a result, they left relatively modest, very hardly any, written records. Most of what we know came from the Romans, which did a great deal of documentation of these strange people in the British Isles. One of the things, just to give you just a flavor of some of this, one of the things that was very dominant among the Druids was human sacrifice.
Oh.
Now we read that.
That is bad. So here's the thing. So if you continue to remember, or the reason why you do these holidays, I think plays a huge role. Like at the end of the day, if everything, according to him, is part of the cult practices, then you shouldn't be celebrating any holiday. But some people like to tie in certain aspects to these holidays, but really maybe there isn't as much links as you like to think. Halloween comes from an ancient cultic pagan festival called Samhain, celebrated in Ireland and Britain over 2,000 years ago. Over time, it mixed with Christian holy days like All Saints' Day. And Irish immigrants later brought those spooky traditions to North America, where they grow into the modern holiday we know today. So it's crazy. On the 8th century, the church made November 1st a day to honor All Saints. All Saints' Day, or All Hallows, or All Hallows Eve. Over the centuries, old pagan customs blended with these church holidays. Yep. So jack-o'-lanterns, people in Ireland and Scotland carved scary faces into turnips or potatoes to scare away wandering spirits. When they moved to North America, they used pumpkins instead because they were bigger and easier to carve. Whoa! That's crazy. This says they lit big bonfires and wore disguises or masks to trick and confuse roaming ghosts. Wow. People believed the wall between our world and the spirit world grew thin. Whoa. Now that's disturbing. Maybe I should be more careful.
Glibly, but until you get into the background, you haven't got a glimpse of what was involved here. According to the Roman historian Tacitus, the Druids covered their altars with the blood of their victims, often criminals, if they were available.
Wow.
According to Caesar, human sacrifice was a common and frequent element. In large cages, scores of people were burned alive at once. The larger the number of victims, the greater the yield of the crops, was the thought.
Dang, now that's demonic. That is really disturbing. So there's more links than what meets the eye, that is for sure.
First century Latin poet, three Celt gods in particular were hungry for human souls: Tutatis, Essus, and Tyrannus. The struggles of the dying victims were held to contain predictions of the future. The Druids had full confidence in sacrifice, human sacrifice, as a method of divination. Quote, horrible indeed was the method by which the Druids divined the future events after a human sacrifice. The Druids, says Tacitus, consult the gods in the palpitating entrails of the men, while Strabo informs us that they stabbed a human victim in the back with a sword and then drew omens from the convulsive movements made by him in his death struggle.
What?
Diodorus says that they augured from the posture in which the victim fell, from his contortions, and from the direction in which the blood flowed from the body. From these, they formed the predictions according to certain rules left to them by the ancestors. So you get the flavor of these practices.
That's disturbing.
These practices are still practiced
Wait, what?
today by certain Satanists.
By Satanists? Oh my goodness. That is creepy. Maybe he's changing my mind. Maybe I should be more careful on Halloween. Oh my goodness, that's disturbing. That is messed up. Like, I get it. People also celebrate terrible demonic things all the time on certain days. Does that mean that I should stop going to church on Sundays because other people celebrate their demonic things on Sundays? Like, I think at the end of the day, it's still what's within your heart. Like, why are you doing this? Is it to be scary? Is it to be spooky? Or is it to spread the love of Jesus? Be a light in the darkness. Maybe we shouldn't dress up as demons, but I don't know.
And neo-pagan groups. Now, the Druids believed that October 31st, the night before their new year and the last day of the old year, Samhain, the Lord of Death, gathered the souls of the evil dead that had been condemned to enter the bodies of animals. It was believed that he would then decide what animal form they would take for the next year. The souls of the good dead were reincarnated as humans. That was the conceptions that they held. The Druids also believed that the punishment of the evil dead would be lightened by sacrifices, prayers, and gifts to the Lord of Death, Samhain. Now, this begins to reveal the strange link that seems to emerge in later years between some of these Druid practices associated with Samhain and purgatory and some of the beliefs of the Roman Church, the non-biblical aspects of those views. Now, the Druid worshippers attempted to placate and appease Samhain, the Lord of Death, because of his power over the souls of the death, whether these souls were good or evil. For those who died in the preceding 12 months, Samhain allowed these spirits to return to the earth, to their former places of habitation, for a few hours to associate once again with their families. When, of course? At the close of that year, on October 31st. Now, it was on these occasions that ancient fire festivals with huge bonfires set on hilltops were set up to frighten away the evil spirits. The souls of the dead were supposed to visit their homes that day, and the autumnal festival acquired a sinister significance with ghosts, witches, goblins, cats, black cats, fairies, demons of all kinds were said to be roaming about.
Wow.
It was a time to placate the supernatural powers controlling the processes of nature. The hilltop Halloween fires of the Scots were called Samhain, which suggesting again the lingering influence of the ancient Celtic festivals. On this night, evil or frustrated ghosts were supposed to play tricks on humans to cause supernatural manifestations. And as part of that celebration, people donned grotesque masks and danced around huge bonfires to scare away the evil spirits.
That's crazy.
In some cases, food was put out to allow the good dead that Samhain had released to feel welcome and at home.
What?
You're beginning to get the picture of how they handled this situation.
Food, I see. Food, I see.
Halloween also was thought to be the most favorable time for divinations regarding marriage, luck, health, and death. It was considered the only day on which the help of the devil could be invoked for such purposes.
What?
That's a strange superstition or thought that emerges in all of this. Now, it's interesting, other festivals throughout the world celebrate a time when the dead return to mingle with the living, it would seem. The Hindus had their Night of Holi. The Iroquois Indians celebrate a Feast of the Dead every 12 years. In Mexico, the Day of the Dead begins on November 2nd, and on it goes. In Russia, all the witches are said to gather once a year. In fact, this is celebrated in Mussorgsky's famous music competition, Night on a Bare Mountain. It's a delightful music composition. In fact, you may recall it was featured as one of the segments in Fantasia, Walt Disney's Fantasia, Night on the Bear Mountain, which celebrates this belief or this legend or whatever that all the witches in Russia come to Bear Mountain October 31st, and they revel all night, and as the dawn comes, they disappear, and the music very eloquently portrays that. Now, it's interesting, here's a surprise maybe, in early American history, Halloween was not practiced. It was not widely observed until the 20th century. It was introduced by the Irish Catholic immigrants. They brought these ideas from Ireland. In Ireland, by the way, it's the only country in the world where Halloween is a national holiday.
Really?
Now, in the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church in Europe, in an attempt to oppose paganism, that was involved in Samhain, they made, in order to try to offset that, the Catholic Church set up November 1st as All Saints' Day, a day commemorating all the saints of the church. And the first evidence of November 1st as the date of church celebration occurred during the reign of Pope Gregory III, but it was in 837 that Pope Gregory IV, ordered its general observance. November 2nd, the next day, was later designated as All Souls' Day. You had All Saints' Day and then you had All Souls' Day, which eventually became a special day to pray for the dead. Now that leads to another concept that emerges here. In the late 1800s, it was customary for English Catholics to assemble at midnight on Halloween to pray for the souls of their departed friends. On November 2nd, in Belgium, people ate special soul cakes, All Souls cakes, because supposedly the more cakes you ate on this night, the more souls you could save from purgatory.
Really?
In Sicily, on All Souls' Day, cakes with images of skulls and skeletons were eaten. In France, on All Souls' Day, it was dedicated to prayers for the dead who were not yet glorified. In earlier times, the people took special bread called souls to cemeteries, placing on the graves. People ate these soul cakes because they thought it to be a powerful antidote against any flames of purgatory.
So that's why everyone has candy now these days? I did not know that. So crazy.
That might be invoked on the returning ghosts. At dusk, the festival changed from All Saints' Day to All Souls' Eve. Lighted candles were placed on the graves and in the windows to guide the dead back home. These are all obviously ideas that emerged in those ancient times that get reflected by various things in Halloween. But we begin to understand, as we look at this carefully, how the ancient practices of the ancient Celts get commingled with the Catholic concept of purgatory.
Wow.
And Catholic concept of purgatory, of course, is related to the Druid belief that the sinful souls of those who died during the year had been relegated to the bodies of animals. Through gifts and sacrifices, their sins could be expiated and their souls freed from to claim their heavenly reward.
That's crazy.
And Samhain, which is the name of the festival, also some scholars believe was also the name of the Lord of Death among the Celts. He judged the souls, presumably, and decreed in what form their existence was to continue, whether in the body of a human being or an animal, and so forth. And now in medieval England, the Halloween festival became known as All Hallows' Eve.
Right.
Hence the name that derives later.
So, like,
and since it was
all those things that I mentioned was right, but there's also a combination now. I'm understanding this a lot more.
Those in purgatory, the feast was abolished by the Church of England after the Reformation, but has since been revived in the Anglo-Catholic churches. And gradually, Halloween, of course, introduced to this country by the Irish immigrants in the late 1800s, it gradually became a secular observance, broadly held, and many practices developed. Now, one of these, of course, that you see associated with this holiday is the jack-o'-lantern. It's interesting how many different ideas try to track that back. It seems that the carved pumpkin may have originated originally from the witches' use of a skull with a candle inside, which illuminated their coven meetings. That's probably where it had a beginning. However, you do encounter some strange legends among the Irish. If you do some research in this area, you'll encounter the legend of Irish Jack.
Oh,
He was presumably a stingy drunk named Jack who tricked the devil into climbing a tree for an apple.
smart. Climbing the tree for an apple is wild. So what is his conclusion? Let's see.
I urge all of us to prayerfully consider what you're going to do as you face a holiday like Halloween. It's dangerous. It's an opportunity to witness. It's an opportunity to do that skillfully with maturity. But it's something I suggest you do consciously, deliberately. And now I have prattled on here a little bit, and we're getting close to the hour. And it's been kind of a heavy evening. So I'm going to indulge something that I know I'll get some criticism for, but that's never held me back in the past. One of the ideas that lies behind, see, by the way, just to stay serious here for a minute, the occult is dangerous for many reasons. This whole issue of poltergeists, the whole presence of ghosts, these are all real issues in our society. The occult is getting popular. We have popular entertainments. We have Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby. We have the movie Ghost with Pat Swayze and Ghostbusters, etc. We have psychic hotlines. We have 900 numbers where you can call to get your psychic.
Like, I agree with all of that. Like, you shouldn't go to those things for any reason. Especially psychics, especially mediums, like witches, all of that, doing tarot cards. None of that's good. That's all evil and can open doors to so many different things. And I definitely don't like it. So it's fascinating to hear his take. And definitely, I would say we should be serious and we should be careful on what we do in every day of our life, not just on Halloween. You know, prayerfully consider, is this going to be bringing glory to God? Is this going to be bringing me further away from God? I think those practices are very, very important. Well, anyway, guys, shout out to Chuck Missler and his amazing teachings. Is very, very fascinating stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day, and God bless.